The motion picture you're about to see was filmed by 4 teams of cameramen in more than 120 locations around the world. Scientists representing more than 40 museums and research centers took part in the explorations. There are no actors in the film. Every location is real. The facts that will be presented are true. This may be the most startling and controversial film you'll ever see. They have been to Earth and left their mark in many ways, in many places. Figures etched on the plain of Nazca tell a story of explorers from outer space. The secret of the story has been learned. The visitors have been here. They have been described in many ways by many men, from primitive drawings to detailed histories, since the beginning of man's stay on Earth until this day. In the Andean mountains of South America, on the deserts of Egypt, in the temples of India, on islands in the Caribbean, the evidence is clear. The record of visits dates back more than 500 centuries. The observations of the planet continue even today. Monuments to the visitors that were created thousands of years ago have been found. They are tributes to the gifts brought from outer space. What has been unexplainable can now be explained. The brief glimpses of visitors provide a clue to their purpose and the reason for their coming. Every law of probability proves that other life exists in the universe. It is now possible to understand how life could have been transported to Earth from some distant planet. It is now possible to understand how we are connected to outer space. A remarkable prophecy etched in stone predicts the year and the day on which the visitors will return to stay. Will we be prepared for the moment that is soon to come? To travel successfully in deep space, man would have to hold the secret of his most precious dream, immortality. Distances are so vast that the spark of life must burn for eons to assure the successful transport of life from one galaxy to another. In ancient crypts, it is possible to find suggestions that the secret was known, that a process of sustaining life was once available on Earth. X-rays of mummies, thousands of years old, indicate that they were encased at very young ages. Most were no more than 20 years old. Strangely, the hand of one mummy still shows the traces of a fire that burns brightly in all living things, the Kirlian aura. You are witnessing the strange, as yet unexplained event called the Kirlian effect. Its presence has been suspected for years. Only recently could the living spark be photographed. Fingertips and all living things generate a dynamic, constantly changing aura that sometimes sparks and leaps like a flame. How it works is something we simply do not know. At UCLA, Dr. Thelma Moss explores the strange world of Kirlian photography.
Let's say that there are about 6 different words that we can describe for this effect, depending on who you are. If you are a conventional physicist, you will call it a corona discharge. And that means it's an electrical emanation caused by the current and the voltage going through the object. Some people who are more inclined to the occult or to the mystical will call it an aura, and they will compare, for example, in famous paintings, whether it's of Buddha or Jesus or Mohammed or anywhere around the world, there are these auras that are circling around the head, and they would like to believe that what we are photographing with this electrical photography is a representation of that, something invisible to the eye, but which exists in and around the body. That's another word. Then if you want to be sort of non-committal, as I prefer to be, I would call it an emanation or some outpouring of an energetic thing. The Russians call this energetic thing by a technical name, bioplasma.
Fairly dim.
Fairly dim. Do you want more?
Her laboratory is a sealed, light-proof chamber where the mysterious force can actually be seen. Triggered by an electrical current, the flaming halos that burst from objects exposed to the Kirlian effect will be captured on high-speed film. An ancient marine creature that died 450 million years ago displays the residue of an ancient life force.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that fantastic? What do you think that was? Okay, here's a very healthy and vigorous plant, and I'm going to take a leaf from it. And what I'm going to do here is cut off one good, healthy section of it like that. And when I do, I'm going to place it on the glass electrode here so that you can see very clearly where the leaf has been cut. Is that good for you, Clark, for framing? Okay. Now, when we turn on the Kirlian apparatus, I think, hopefully, that we will see in outline the part of the leaf that has been cut away. We call that the phantom leaf effect.
And after a moment, it is there, the aura of the full leaf.
Okay, Arlene and Fred, would you step over on each side of that glass plate? Put your fingers on the back. I'm going to turn the power source on. Get very close to each other, but not touching. Very good. Now, do you feel that? Okay, fine. Does that feel comfortable for you? Good. Now, would you lean across to each other and start kissing? And please make it a passionate embrace, okay? Yeah, sure. Use hands. Use anything you can. Go to it. Fine. I think you can work up a little more enthusiasm. It looks to me as though maybe Arlene is having a little more fun than Fred. Can you get more into it, Fred?
Immortality, or something resembling it, is necessary when we consider the vast distances of space that must be crossed to plant life elsewhere in the cosmos. Somewhere in space, there is life. But where? A man counting a number every second of every working day would need a lifetime merely to reach the number 1 billion, a figure which falls 100 times short of the number of stars in our galaxy alone. Somewhere in space, there is a solar system like ours, where life exists. Perhaps it is in the constellation Epsilon Bautes, where a sun is dying, burning itself out. Eons ago, the dying sun would have threatened all life on the second planet of the solar system. Some scientists believe that a space probe was sent from that planet toward the Earth. They believe the probe sent these signals in 1927. Duncan Lunan of the British Interplanetary Society has interpreted the signals as a message from the space probe, a message from a dying planet in Epsilon Bautes. Duncan Lunan.
What occurred to me was that the stars are spaced at random in the sky, therefore the coordinates of a star map, expressed numerically, would be a random series of numbers. There are 7 dots in the barrier, and there are 6 dots on the right-hand side here. And they have quite a marked resemblance, very marked indeed, to the constellation figure of Bautes, the herdsman. These sharp lines of intense, rapidly repeated echoes appear to be of the nature of clues, as it were, to the interpretation of the panel. It's like these sort of children's puzzles where you join up the dots and you make a shape, so that you could sort of take it like this. It starts here. We come from Epsilon Bautes, which is a double star, and then we have this interesting sort of swallow-like shape here, and it says, or seems to say, we live on the 6th planet of 7. Well, 2 signals later, we get an absolutely explicit statement in another scale figure that they came from the 2nd planet to the 6th. We've got a whacking great arrow pointing from the 2nd planet to the 6th with a sun dot at the front end of it. The sun, in other words, it says the sun pushed us from the 2nd planet to the 6th. And just in case we haven't got the point, it's repeated in exactly the same way 2 signals later.
The signals are the only known message from space. In the sequence of sounds, Duncan Lunan has found a specific message of a population moving from the 2nd planet to the 6th in Epsilon Bautes. And then where? Perhaps to Earth. The signals are an SOS to the universe.
In this situation, the inhabitants of the planetary system would find themselves in real danger. Their own planet would get hotter. In time, all the planets would get very hot. They would have, in other words, to perfect first interplanetary and then interstellar travel in order to get away from the sun. So the probe then came to the Earth. It came to the solar system. It located the Earth. It came into orbit around the Earth, and it began looking for signals, intelligent signals from Earth that would indicate the presence of intelligence.
If Duncan Lunan's interpretation of the signals is correct, a space probe is now traveling in our solar system, monitoring life on Earth. It may already have been seen by American astronauts.
Gemini 7 here, Houston 98.
Loud and clear. 7, go ahead.
Bogey at 10 o'clock high.
This is Houston. Say again, 7.
have a bogey at 10 o'clock high.
Roger.
Gemini Control here again. The reference in that conversation was bogey. It was Borman who reported sighting the bogey. This is Gemini Control Houston at 4 hours, 24 minutes into the flight.
Bogey is the code word for an unidentified aircraft. But a bogey in space is almost beyond belief. Or is it? During peak hours, the skies over the United States are filled with as many as 100,000 aircraft. They are watched continuously by the best trained, most skilled radar operators in all the world. To them, UFOs are a daily occurrence. NORAD, the North American Defense Command, for example, reports 800 UFOs on radar every month. Most, of course, are eventually explained, but not all. Almost 400 sightings are still carried on the books as unidentified flying objects. Reports of airborne objects which cannot be identified give a clear indication that the Earth is being monitored, watched by a presence from somewhere else in the universe. To an incoming space probe, the solar system is unknown territory that must be charted and searched for evidence of life. Assume the technology of reaching thousands of miles per second had been accomplished, that the problems of acceleration and deceleration in space had been overcome. A probe would then enter the solar system from its most distant point, past Pluto, 3 billion miles from the sun, and lacking atmosphere, past Neptune and Uranus, too heavily laden with hydrogen and methane to support life. To ring Saturn, awesome, beautiful, protected by a band of asteroids, but with an atmosphere of helium, hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. Verdict, no life. Ahead on the journey lie the most probable planets where life might be sustained. Banded Jupiter. Atmosphere, hydrogen, helium, methane, ammonia. No life. Mars. Distance from Sun, 142 million miles. Diameter, 4,200 miles. Atmosphere, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, argon. Probable life. Mars. Life potential close-up survey. Planetary atmosphere thin. Water present in small quantities. All life forms designated primitive. Existence marginal. No life form on Mars is capable of sending electronic signals into space. If there is intelligent life in this system, it must be on the third planet, the blue world called Earth. Certainly in a universe 13 billion years old, there was time enough for uncounted species to rise, create civilizations, and scatter them across the universe, reaching even the small, out-of-the-way planet called Earth. Dr. Leslie Orgel is a biologist at the Salk Institute in California. He and Nobel Prize winner Sir Francis Crick developed the theory of directed panspermia, the idea that life on Earth was sent here by a superior civilization. Dr. Orgel.
In the 19th century, there were two theories about how life could have got to the Earth from outside. One theory, which was due to Lord Kelvin in England, said that life arrived as a spore carried on a meteorite. And the other theory, which was popularized by Arrhenius in Sweden, suggested that a spore could have been blown directly from a planet on another solar system all the way to the Earth. Now, in the last 10 or 20 years, it's become more and more clear that these theories just won't work, that a spore coming from outer space would be destroyed by radiation long before it got here, and a meteorite probably could never escape from another solar system. Now, directed panspermia is a sort of last attempt to resurrect the theory that life could have come here from elsewhere, and the notion is that maybe life was deliberately sent here by a technological society on some other planet, probably in our own galaxy.
Earth Base 1, spaceships would have to spend hundreds of years in flight. To transport and sustain life over such an extended time, space-traveling civilization would have to ship an entire colony of men across a galaxy in suspended animation. Did it happen in the past? Was this the secret of early space travelers? We now know how it might have been done. The method is called interspecies embryo transplantation. It was developed here at the Worcester Foundation for Experimental Biology by Dr. M.C. Chang. In 1952, Dr. Chang took a number of fertilized eggs from the womb of a rabbit and carried them to England. There, the eggs were implanted in the womb of another rabbit, where they came to term. The offspring, in turn, became pregnant. Their fertilized eggs were then taken from England and implanted in the Worcester rabbits. The Worcester colony is now composed of the descendants of that first embryo implantation.
From Cambridge, some just like this, then put into the test tube. So I put those rabbit egg into those tubes and put into a flask and bring back, then transplant those.
By reaching into the heart of the cell, scientists are challenging our traditional concepts of life and morality. Yet, faced with the threat of extinction, a species capable of finding its salvation in an advanced biotechnology would surely seize the opportunity.
I think it's possible to transport a human eggs from one planet to another planet.
Our own biotechnology has made of the rabbit a container in which entire herds of cattle, flocks of sheep, and other animals are shipped around the world. At the Wayne State Medical Center in Detroit, Dr. E.S.E. Hoffes has just received a rabbit from South America. It carries embryonic additions to his colony of research monkeys.
The idea of embryo transfer is to obtain large numbers of embryos from one species and ship them to another part of the world in the easy species like the rabbit. Now, we have a rabbit here, and we'll have 200 embryos of monkeys. in them, in this one rabbit. The first step of this is to how to collect the embryo. This requires surgery.
Going in the lumen, which is very good. It's a very good standard.
Then examination of the embryo under the microscope. And then the transfer of the embryo into another species. And then we will go to the monkey and transplant the monkey embryos that were put in the rabbit into this monkey.
I don't like to put any air bubbles inside at all, so just we'll...
And I think this is ready to go to the colony.
A colony of cells lives in the bottle. The red fluid in which they float is their food. Tissue cultures such as this have supported colonies of the same cells for more than 50 years. In the same manner, a colony of fertilized human eggs, or embryos, might be kept alive during the long journey between the stars. Periodically, several embryos would be implanted into female crew members, be born, grow, and take their place in the crew, caring for the embryo colony that would one day be planted on a new world, light years from their home planet. In just such a fashion, a rocket might have crossed the reaches of open space and brought to Earth an embryonic colony destined to become the ancestors of men.